So Warren, I'm gonna ask you some very pointed questions. I mean, just straight out. The first thing I want to ask you is, did you kill Nolan?
What's up, family? You heard the question, did you kill Nolan? Now, and I want you to sit with that and let that sink in. This is an interview with Officer Tatum. He's a Republican Party supporter. He's highly known to support the Republican Party. He is a Republican. He is a Christian conservative, to be exact, well known on YouTube as a political commentator. Interviewing a friend of Nolan Wells, who has the camouflage hat on. Now, and I want you to sit with the question Officer Tatum in the black asked him, did you kill Nolan? Because if you let that sink in, that's not a question you ask somebody unless there's a reason to ask it. And that's not a silence you hear unless there's a reason to be silent. We're going to break this down. We're going to look at different perspectives, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts because this Nolan Wells case is getting bigger by the day. And the more the people talk, the more receipts we get, the more I'm starting to see a pattern. And family, it's a pattern I don't like. So let me set the scene. 18-year-old Nolan Wells, college football player, goes out to Horn Island, Mississippi on the 4th of July holiday with a group of friends. He's the only black kid in the group. He's the only one who didn't come back. His body was found in the water 2 days later. Now, I don't have to tell you why that story went viral. You already know the optics are bad, the questions are loud, and the family hired Ben Crump, civil rights attorney. Colin Kaepernick paid for the independent autopsy. Tyler Perry paid for the funeral. Al Sharpton showed up, and everybody showed up. But here's the question I keep coming back to: who actually knows what happened and who's just here for the cameras? Now enters Warren Hudson, Nolan's friend that I said here on this clip with the camouflage hat. This is the guy who went on national television, right? Sat down with a major platform and said he was Nolan's best friend. His best friend, they say they grew up together, elementary school, middle school, high school, freshman year of college. Said Nolan was like a brother, talked every day, hung out every weekend, said he knew everything about Nolan. The world was supposed to believe this man. The interview was set up like a truth telling moment. The big reveal, the friend who's finally going to set the record straight. But here's the thing about the internet family, the internet keeps receipts, and the receipts don't lie. So I'm going to show you exactly what happened in regards of his take. Warren Hudson sits in this interview and says Nolan was like a brother to him. They grew up together. They were super close, and he never had anything bad to say about Nolan Wells. He gets emotional. He's telling a story. He's describing the 4th of July trip, how they went to Horn Island, how there were 20 to 30 people on 3 boats, how Nolan was drinking, how Nolan seemed fine, how Nolan was talking to a girl, how Nolan decided to stay on the island. And he's painting a picture, obviously. And for a lot of people watching, it sounds believable and it sounds like a friend telling the truth. And then you're looking at the receipts, and the receipt, Nolan's mother, the woman who carried him for 9 months, the woman who raised him and buried him, she was asked about Warren Hudson, and she said, and I'm paraphrasing here, you guys go check it out yourself. I've never heard of this person in my entire life. Now pause and think about that for a second. Your son is 18 years old. He's lived in your house his whole life. You know his friends. You know who he's close with, and you know who he talks to. And a man goes on national television, calls himself your son's best friend, and you never heard his name. Not once in 18 years. And that's not a small detail. That's a massive problem. Now, to be fair, Warren, with the camouflage hat on, might say, well, we never hung out at Nolan's house. We were always at my house or at other friends' houses. So his mom didn't know me. He actually said that in an interview here. And he said, we were never at Nolan's house. And I get that kids do that. They hang out at the friend's house where the parents are cooler or whatever. That happens. But let me ask you this. If your child had a best friend, a brother, someone they talk to every single day, someone they were that close with, would you at least know the name? Would you have heard that name come up in a conversation? Would you have seen it on the phone? Would you have some recognition? Because Nolan's mother didn't just say she didn't know Warren. She said she never heard of him. And that's a different level of unknown.
Where it appears that she may have said, at least I saw in part, that she said as if she didn't know any of you guys.
Right. Well, Nolan a lot of the times was at like my house and at my buddy's house. We never went to Nolan's house and hung out. I mean, and my friend group's very, very tight knit. I mean, we hang out every day when we're back home from school. In high school, we hung out most weekdays and every day on the weekend. And I mean, we were never at Nolan's house, which, there's nothing wrong with that. But I met his father, and I mean, in 8th grade, Nolan. That's when Nolan and I like got really close. It was COVID year, and we were in class all year long together. Me and a couple of my buddies, and Nolan and I just got super tight because we'd get a Waffle House once a week together, eat, and I mean, we were just super super close. But his dad would swing by Waffle House, and like hang out around us, but never. I was never around Nolan's parents a lot, but I mean, that didn't change our relationship any. Nolan and I were still just as close, and he was just as close with my friends as, anyone else.
Well, there you have it, right? And then you got the other friends, the ones who were actually on the boat, the ones who were actually there. Some of them are scared to talk. Some of them are lawyered up. Some of them are hiding behind their parents who happen to be judges and lawyers in that county. Now, and I'm not saying that means they're guilty of anything, but I am saying that when people who have nothing to hide start acting like they have something to hide, you are allowed to ask questions. You're allowed to be skeptical. That's not racism. That's just common sense. But this is where the bigger conversation comes in because what I'm seeing in this case is what I've seen before. A young black man dies under suspicious circumstances. The media picks it up. The civil rights leaders parachute in. The attorneys get on TV. The fundraisers start. The narratives get written before the investigation is done because they want to convict people in a court of public opinion, which means by the opinions of others to assume what they know, what they actually don't know, because they didn't listen to understand while letting the facts come out. So basically, you have a foundation based on lies and assumptions which is misleading, which is also ignorance, which is why individuals are confused and double minded in all their ways, right? So, and somewhere in the middle of all of that, the truth gets lost. Not because anybody's evil, unless they're intentionally doing it, because people have hidden agendas and motives. I don't know, I'm not in their head, but because everybody's got an angle. The media want clicks, the attorneys want cases, aka cases turn into money to pay their bills, et cetera, et cetera. The activists want momentum, which is visibility and publicity. And the politicians want talking points. And the family, they just want answers. But they're surrounded by people who want something else. Think about it like this. The independent autopsy came back inconclusive. Couldn't determine cause of death. Couldn't rule out foul play. Couldn't rule out drowning. Inconclusive. That's a word that leaves the door open for everybody to keep talking. And that's exactly what's happening. The story keeps going, the interviews keep happening, the money keeps flowing, but do we actually know what happened to Nolan? No, we don't. And the people who are there aren't telling a consistent story. And a friend who went on TV says one thing, and the other witnesses say another, and the GPS data says something else. The phone records raise more questions than the body. The body can't talk, right?
Time.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that's clear because the statements that are out there made it appear that it was just you, Nolan, and probably 2 or 3 other guys, and y'all are the only ones that went out to this island.
And that's completely incorrect. I mean, Horn Island on the 4th of July is the most popular day to be on the water on, throughout the entire Gulf Coast. I mean, everybody and their mom is on the water on 4th of July, There's no telling. I mean, roughly probably 2 to 3, maybe even 4,000 people out there. There were boats lined up off the island. I mean, there was 3 rows of boats all the way until my vision ended, until I could see of people there was 1 row of boats, and then there was another row of boats, and then there was a 3rd row of boats.
Yeah.
I mean, there was people lined up all up and down the island to where, I mean, who knows? I mean, and that wasn't just, we were parked on the north side, on the west tip. It wasn't just there. I mean, there's tons of people packed out on the south side and on the east end and in the middle of the island. But just where we were, I mean, there was easily 1,000 people. It grew and grew as the day came on. And, I mean, that's just how it was. Everybody's drinking, I mean, it's 4th of July. Everyone's just trying to enjoy themselves. And, it's a big party, basically. Big party.
Yeah, so y'all pretty much having a good time. Just like anybody would imagine, 18-year-olds, probably 20-year-olds, college students, out on the island, women, you probably had alcohol. Y'all having a good time.
Yeah, of course.
And so where's Nolan in this? You guys out there, the friend groups are out there, 3 boats full of people that came out there that seem to be the closest friend group.
Right.
Where's Nolan in this in comparison to where you and others are at?
Well, I had a couple conversations with Nolan that day, and I I talked to him and a couple of my other buddies. They in a group. I was not focused on anyone solely, like looking and pointing anyone out, because there's so many people out there. I mean, I was talking to my friends that I haven't seen in a while from high school. I was talking from people I knew from college. I was talking to, everybody my age, and even people older than us were, over there. Like, I mean, it was just a regular thing. We're all used to this. We've been out to the islands before. My buddies don't just go out to the island on 4th of July, but they go out, every weekend. Like, I fish the islands. I don't just, fish around Horn Island. I fish around Ship Island too. So I'm very familiar with the islands. And I feel like it was just a big, I talked to Nolan, and, Nolan was drinking. Everybody was drinking, most of everybody. And I mean, Nolan seemed completely fine every time I talked to him. We had just regular conversations.
Explain that, because you guys got there around 10.
Yeah.
It's now 4:30.
Right.
People are still out there partying, and
Correct.
they're having a good time, but something happened to where it necessitated you guys to get the boat up and running. Can you explain that?
Yeah. So
that would be a part 2. That was part 1 of the interview. But real talk, I've been watching this case, and I've been watching who's standing in the spotlight. Ben Crump, Al Sharpton, Tyler Perry, Colin Kaepernick. These are names that show up whenever there's a black tragedy that goes viral. It seems to say, a lot of people would say. And I'm not saying their intentions are bad, but I am saying that there's a pattern, a formula, a script that gets followed every single time. And the script goes like this. Something happens, the narrative gets set. Anyone who questions the narrative gets called a race traitor or a hater. The investigation becomes secondary to the story, and by the time the truth comes out, everybody's already moved on to the next tragedy, right? That's not justice. That's a business model. And here's where I want to be really clear. Nolan Wells deserves justice. His family deserves answers. If somebody hurt the young man, they need to be held accountable, period, end of story. I'm not here to defend anybody and who did wrong. The autopsy from the state still hasn't came out. They have retained the organs. That's another thing. Just because you do an independent autopsy, the state is already the one to do the first autopsy, and they're the one that actually retain the organs and actually do the toxicology. So the simple fact that you think that the independent autopsy is going to give you more answers, which is why in turn it was inconclusive, because they don't have the organs. So you can't tell if he drowned or anything because there's no lungs or waterways or anything to be tested. That's the misleading ignorance that I'm talking about. However, I'm not here to defend anybody who did wrong, but I'm here to say that we need to trust receipts over narratives. We need to wait for the investigation. We need to look at the evidence. We need to stop treating every tragedy like it's a movie where we already know the ending, because real life doesn't work like that and real justice doesn't work like that. So the Bible says in Proverbs chapter 12, verse 19, truthful lips endure forever, but a lying tongue is only for a moment. And that's the scripture for today, because the truth has a way of surviving. The truth has a way of outlasting the headlines, the interviews, the fundraisers, the press conference. The truth is patient. It doesn't need a good PR. It doesn't need a media strategy. It just needs time. And eventually the truth shows up. The lies fade. The narratives fall apart. But the truth says in itself, self-explanatory, the truth stays, right? That's what the truth says when it's in itself, without nothing having to back it, because it speaks for itself. Now, for my family who may not be spiritual, here's a life wisdom version. When you build your understanding on what people tell you instead of what you can verify, you're building on sand. And the people who show up every time there's a tragedy, who seem to have the same speech ready, who seem to know exactly what to say to the cameras, check their history, check their track record. Ask yourself, where were they before the camera showed up? What do they do after the cameras leave? Because if somebody's only around when there's a dead body in the news crew, they're not there for the family, they're there for the coverage. And at the end of the day, family, here's what I want you to take from this. Trust receipts, trust evidence, trust the process, but don't trust the narrative just because it's loud. Don't trust the story just because it's being told by someone with a platform. Look at who's profiting, look at who's talking, look at who's staying quiet, and then make up your own mind, because that's what this channel is about. No agenda, no narrative, just receipts. But let me know what you think in the comments. Do you trust Warren Hudson's story? Do you think the investigation is being handled right? I want to hear from you. Hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on your post notifications, spread that peace, love, and positivity. Let the love supersede the hate. I'll catch you in the next one. On that note, family, peace.